Everybody, great to have you with us today. This is our podcast number 14. Welcome to the Daily Crossing. Guys, great seeing you. Great having you here. Needless to say, we come today to this conversation mainly to address something that I think we can all agree that it was not necessarily a good day for the country in general. I don't care what political spectrum you come from, and if you don't understand that what just happened in the last 24, 48 hours is definitely not something that is good for the country, then there's a few things that we don't understand. Obviously, is not a surprising news. You know what I mean? We spoke about it before, but the news that former President Donald Trump was going to get indicted is something that
it's real now.
Everybody kind of was like, okay, so it looks like it's about to happen. So the indictment is out, is already official, announced. We haven't seen the content of the allegations, right? Everything is obviously a sequence of allegations. To my surprise, I believe it's already confirmed that it's over 30 counts. And let me tell you what that means. Then we're going to obviously go back and just look a little bit about the timeline, right? There's only X amount of counts that are needed for somebody to end up doing jail time, you know what I mean? And so when you put that many of them connected to an indictment, what you're hoping is that, hey, you know what, something is going to stick to the wall, you know what I mean, and something is going to happen. But great seeing you guys. Where were you when you heard the news? So, what do you remember exactly what you were doing when it became official?
Yeah, I was probably in the office.
Yeah.
I was in the office. Yeah. But like you said, because we spoke about it a couple times, I wasn't surprised that it was happening now. But I'm still just unclear about a lot of things around it, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it is that they're saying that he did that was illegal exactly. So I'm still confused about a lot of things, to be honest.
I want to reflect on the moment a little bit, though. And I want to see if we can personalize it a little bit. I know it means something to you and means something to you. Obviously, it means something to me. Anybody that is watching this whole sequence of things taking place right now, it also means something to them, right? Again, it's not even a question of agreement, liking, disliking, or something like that, but it means something to somebody when you truly start thinking about, okay, what just happened here? So at a personal level, though, if you have to reflect a little bit, what does it mean to you to kind of see this playing out right now? How are you processing the...
Well, the only thing that I'm thinking about really as far as like how it affects me is that what I'm thinking is if they're able to do this to like a former president, like let's say if it is a bunch of nonsense, then it's like, all right, so then nobody's safe. We can all go to jail tomorrow for something that you did in middle school because they remember I was like, what? It's like so that's the biggest thing that that I'm thinking about is that anytime when you see somebody in a position of a president or former president and things like this is happening, then it's like then we have zero chance of being able to make it against whatever system is allowing things like this to happen. That's how I look at it.
The way that I process it is based on what we have, based on the information that we have right now, and it being a payoff or something, and all of these things is clearly somebody that is looking to eliminate a political opponent. They're looking to tarnish somebody's name. Whether the guy did it or not, I just don't know. Like, how many people are being paid off on a regular basis, and why is this one the one that you decide to prosecute that aggressively, which happens to be also president? I'll talk about that a little bit later. So that is scary because in my country they do things like that. Well, it's a little bit different. They will legit just control the elections, but it starts kind of like that, and so it's really scary to see that because I immediately go back to my country. And the other side is thinking about. Look, Brazil elected somebody that happens to be also somebody that got out of jail. The Venezuelan president, Hugo Chavez, was also somebody that passed her, right? It was somebody that also went to jail. So it's like, I cannot believe that the land of opportunity, the American, I don't know how many other presidents, in Latin American countries, have been going through the same process. I'm pissed off about the fact that we happen to just join that club. It's not a club to be proud of, and so it better be massive, whatever it is that they're saying. But the fact that they have what you said, 30 counts just thrown against the wall to see what sticks, it looks more like I have beef with you versus there's actual something that is solid, so.
Well, over 30, I think the actual number is about 33, anywhere from 31 to 33. This is a sealed indictment that has been leaked out. I mean, this thing has more information coming out of it that is supposed to be, and it's highlighting another problem that we have right now, which is, we are unable to keep things that are meant to be private, and apparently there's a lot of people that have an interest on moving information. But, let's do a couple of things. Let's see if we can go a little bit of a timeline, right? I mean, like, who is Donald Trump? You know what I mean? This is a man that, for many years, he actually spoke about the possibility of running for office. And a lot of people will somewhere, somehow, almost religiously, if I saw a couple of election cycles where they actually went to, I remember even Mitt Romney, going up to visit him. I remember multiple Republican candidates actually going out there to, it's almost like a pilgrimage to Mecca, where people were going to see if he was going to give them the blessing and support and endorse them. So for years he started to accumulate some level of political power. But you can go back to videos that are around 30 years, where the question is already, hey, are you thinking about running one day? Are you thinking about what would be the issues that you will address? And remarkably enough, if you go back even to that time, sticking to, how United States is usually abused, how United States has been able to help other countries, enrich, without their getting their proper cut of, if you will, treat it as an investment,
Business,
right?
yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so definitely a business guy, a lot of ventures, a lot of ups and downs. I think that the overall qualification for somebody, if you're worth a few $1 billion, if you're just worth $1 billion, I think that you can claim some level of success, right? I think it's that's an undeniable situation, right? So very marked history. These are not people that can hide from the eye of the public, because his father was also a developer that had a lot of buildings in Brooklyn, right? And it is Donald Trump who essentially moves the operation from the Brooklyn borough to the city, right, to Manhattan. And then he builds the empire that we know today, goes national and then international. And today, the Trump last name is recognized maybe at the same level that you will know a Marriott, a Hilton when it comes to hotels, when it comes to casinos, when it comes to also investment. So it's a very well recognized name. Everybody, and then he in addition to that, he becomes a TV guy, right? He develops a very successful show called The Apprentice, right? And by the way, one of the most successful shows that they have going on in that channel, who later on became a very unfriendly channel to him, but extremely successful, and then that brings me back to that incredible moment where it is the National Correspondence Dinner, which happens once a year, and it's supposed to be a little bit of comedy involved. You know what I mean? Everybody's supposed to make fun of each other and so and so. And President Obama, who happens to be a funny individual, right? He knows how to deliver a funny line, just went to town on Donald Trump. I mean, like literally. I'm looking at this man reaction to the whole process, and I will go as far as to say, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, that was probably the moment when he actually decided, you know what, I think I'm gonna go get your job. I'm gonna go take your job. And he became the president of the United States. A very unusual guy, somebody outside of politics, somebody that we can absolutely claim they had very divisive moments or very divisive language. I mean, it's people didn't know what to make of him coming down that, escalator and just getting down to the bottom and say, well, Mexicans are sent from Mexico. We're getting this, and everybody was like, "What did he just say? That he's just saying rapists and criminals and people." And like, everybody's like, "Oh, this guy's done. There's no way you can get elected." And one by one, got through every single one of the Republican candidates. Got through Hillary Clinton, and to the surprise of many, became the president of the United States. Couple of things that you want to highlight. During his tenure.
Can I tell you, I remember the night that he was elected.
The night that you were
that he was elected president? Yeah, I was.
Did you think that it was going to happen? Like, in all
No,
fairness, like
I
a lot
was-
of people are saying,
I was texting my friend who happens
Yeah.
to be like very into politics, and I wasn't necessarily. I was very, what you consider a liberal
Got
back then, and I was looking into it. I was emotional, and I'm thinking, gay rights are gonna go back. I'm thinking everything that everybody kept on telling me about it was true. Fast forward 4 years into whatever he was saying, I stopped listening to the way that he was saying it, and I started paying attention to the things that he was doing. And I mean, it's thanks to him that I actually have an opportunity to, that I open myself to the opportunity to learn about politics in a different perspective and to look at both sides versus only one side. So I have that to thank.
did it force you a little bit to just, would you say that it was actually maybe fear and a little bit of anger that got you to let me pay a little more attention to see what's going to come out of this?
Yeah,
and it
because
kind of
I remember specifically, I was looking for this guy to.
So for you, that was not a good night.
It
For
was,
you,
no,
that's that-
I was emotional. It was 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like, holy shit! Like I was,
Really?
I
Okay.
was thinking about like how I'm married to Nori now, but I remember, specifically thinking, is this shit gonna like affect us? Because that was the biggest thing. It's like, what happens if I'm in a hospital and this guy is in power and he doesn't give her the right to see me because we're not legally married or whatever. If he rolls that back, that was my fear. So I remember thinking about all of the consequences that was gonna happen to me as a gay person, and after he was in office, I realized that regardless of what everybody else says, he actually was very friendly and kind to the gay community. So which he was in his. Afterwards, I went looking, and he was actually in the shows and stuff like that as well. He was always been a friend of the community. So
Yeah. This guy was a friend of everybody up until the point that he decided to run as a
to
Republican.
piss,
Yeah.
everybody off.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I knew he was gonna win.
Seriously?
Going
Yeah,
into the election, you were
the-
very confident that
How
he's
were you
I didn't-
looking?
I didn't-
Where were you looking at?
on the streets.
definitely not CNN.
I was
No, on
gonna
the
say
streets.
no. I was counting
Because-
votes. I had the polls.
like I
the whole
remember
thing.
driving around like a couple weeks before, and every sign that I seen everywhere was like for Trump supporters. I was like,
Wow.
I was like, this guy's about to win. I was like, just looking
Where were
around
you living,
outside.
though? Were you in New York or
No, this
Florida?
was here. This was in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, this was in
Okay.
Florida, and I just remember when I was seeing it, and then I remember one of my friends had came by, right, and obviously he's black, right, so and he was like, "Yeah, I got a Trump shirt. I'm about to go out and to go." I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Where you going?" He's like, "Yes, I'll go to support you." I was like, "Oh, you're crazy." But then once I seen it, I was like, "Yeah, this guy's about to win," But at the end of the day, he's a business guy, so I know. Regardless of how people feel about him personally, he's gonna make the best business decision,
Yep.
which is what
He
makes
ran the
sense,
country like a business.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but I wasn't surprised. I didn't think it was gonna happen like a year earlier, but once it got closer, I was like, oh no, he's about to win. Yeah. So
Interesting.
Yep.
So for me, it became very clear that this was taking the form of a movement. And what that movement was describing was things that I believe on wholeheartedly. One of them is politics in Washington had become extremely corrupt. And it's not even there's no way to hide it anymore, and I don't even think they care to hide it anymore. It's like You know,
Talk about too big to fail.
essentially,
Oh, wow.
you know that when you're looking at some of these guys, right, they make the choice to go into politics. It's almost as if they say, from this point on, I don't care as long as I can survive the election, right? Because that's the another component. There is such a dirty process that I know for a fact a lot of good people that wouldn't go through that route just because they're not willing to put their families through that process. It's like, listen, man, like you were saying, you mean you're gonna go back to high school when I smoked a joint and I got
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and everybody, and I was doing stupid things with my friend, and you know what I mean, and here I am upside down doing a shot of whatever, and that's not good.
Keg stands?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes.
You look at those things and you're saying there's a lot of good people that are not running because your dirty laundry, and I mean all of it.
It's gonna be on a
It's
commercial.
gonna come out because there are people literally like there are people that that's what they get to be paid for, right? To go find all the dirt that you can find. So this guy, first of all, been around for a long time, has done a lot of stuff. So there was definitely plenty of material to go after prior to. Now, during the election. Now, I have a question for the two of you. Obviously, without spending 3 hours, if you had to choose just a couple of the very negative things about his presidency and a couple of the positive things about his presidency. For me, I was extremely attracted to the idea, like I said, started to look like a movement. People were saying, listen, we had enough of the dirty politics that are, you know what I mean, there have to be a different way to do this. And I think everybody was excited about that possibility, a different way of doing, handling business. And I think everybody, regardless of where you were, there was a little bit of excitement about that. I know that there was a risk everywhere for everybody to go around. Because the guy, at the end of the day, to be quite honest with you, he's not a Democrat. He's not even a Republican.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? He's more of a populist, right? And he's also a nationalist. You know what I mean? So there's a couple of things that get dumped into that. But good and bad for you. Let's get some of the bad stuff out of the way first, and a couple of good things, and then.
So I think I have one of each. So the worst thing about I would say his presidency, or just him in general, is he doesn't always know the best time to say, or how to say what is on his mind, because he'll say exactly what's on his mind. Because here's the thing, I think everybody's crazy, like in their head, but you know how to control it.
There's like a filter.
Yeah, correct. He doesn't have any
I
filters.
just lost that filter a really long time ago.
That was one of the worst things, and believe it or not, that's also one of the best things too, because at least now you know what he's thinking, which sometimes is crazy, but I think there's a lot of other people where they're thinking even worse thoughts, but they won't say it. So it's like, now I don't even know how to judge who you really are, as a person with your character, So it could be looked at as a bad thing because he has no filter, but it could also be looked at as a good thing, But I think that's one of the most negative aspects is that. But the good thing is our economy was doing a lot better. Now I don't know how much of that is directly because of him, but at the end of the day, if the economy is up, it's up, regardless of, sure. Whether, you can say, oh, it's because of this other thing or not. So that was probably, I'll say, one of the best things, is how the market was doing,
Fair enough.
Yep.
What about you?
So for me, I'll start with the bad. He is very divisive. And so he creates polar opposites. And yes, he created a movement. But there's been so much friction, between political parties and stuff like that. So, and I know that that's necessary in order for some things to be rattled. So that was one of those things that I didn't appreciate, because there was families and things that were fighting anyway because right and left, but he made that division. There was a big division there, and I think he was a big contributor to that. And I think he's a great business person, but he wasn't the best communicator. So, all of this, there was so many things that he posted on Twitter that got him into trouble where, you always say something, and I'm learning how to deliver a message better, but you always say the wrong thing. You may say the wrong thing, but you actually end up doing the right thing. And for me, that's the other side, right? The right thing is the fact that, there was no wars. Everybody was put together. I don't think and there's no way of telling. But I don't think that Putin will be doing what Putin is doing. I don't think China will be making the crazy moves that they're making right now. There definitely won't be no balloons flying over, like all of those things. Maybe because everybody thought he was crazy and he actually pushed the button. But
Sure.
at least they were at bay and saying, we better keep our shit together because this dude is crazy. The last thing is the money was right. I agree with you. And business-wise, he ran the country like a business. And he's a very efficient businessman. So I think that actually ended up playing to everybody's advantage, even the people that thought were getting screwed when it comes to money. Everybody in the population actually did better financially, which is not the case right now.
Correct.
So,
Oh, and I have one more thing that I'll say that some people might look at it as a plus or a minus, but I think it's a plus. Is that he is not a politician that's not what he was
It's
doing.
not a career,
for his career, for his whole life. And I think sometimes if your number one goal is to be a politician, then you may not have the right thought process as far as what's best for the country versus what's going to allow me to get more votes.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Versus him, he's thinking of the bottom line. How do I make this thing grow? Versus, I just need to get into this position, which is what most politicians are skilled at doing versus actually making a difference. So I think that's a plus as well. Yep.
Make no mistake about it. This is a very flawed individual, and maybe that's also the reason why he became so relatable to a lot of people, because you can see a little bit of yourself in that individual, right? It's like, okay, I'm not perfect. I don't walk on water. This guy definitely has a lot of flaws. Probably, unfortunately, though, from a personal level, his biggest challenge was what everybody described as his incredible ego. You know what I mean? Like somebody that was. There's actually a story about a couple of friends that went to his facility in Mar-a-Lago, and one of the guys that was in the event, one of the guys that was actually serving wine around was Robert Mondavi himself, the founder of the
Seriously,
Mondavi,
the
and he's
winery?
like literally serving wine to people, right?
Oh, wow.
And obviously, eventually, somebody recognized it, and they go like, "What are you? First of all, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And what are you doing serving?" They're
Pouring,
like,
yeah.
you know what? He's like, and he literally went on to say, there was a time when I was really struggling, and I would have been out of business. I should have gone out of business, and the only reason why I didn't go out of business because this man decided to, do business with my company. So think about, it's like they don't have a reason to help you. They don't have a reason. The amount of stories, like when you look at it, by the way, at the same time that he's telling the story, that if you ask me, is as emotional as it gets.
Yep.
From saving a family, saving a legacy, saving employees, right, workers that otherwise would have been out of
Mondavi's
work.
huge right now.
Mondavi's first of all, it's a great product.
Yeah.
It's a great wine, and it's a very large organization. And just so you know, it's one of the reasons that I'm more of a European type of wine drinker. But that is one of the brands that I would buy just every time I run into it, and I remember the story. To me,
It's
there's an
emotional.
emotional connection with that,
So
right? And then
powerful. I love it.
But the amount of stories
How
about
many
this
people?
guy.
Yeah.
In many ways, this guy was more of a blue collar than many of the others. There's not a single politician right now that can claim the level of a blue collar. To describe a billionaire as a blue collar type of guy, it's a very difficult thing to do. So at the end of the day, you really don't know who that. And by the way, and as they tell in the story, he said, "Here's another thing that I couldn't help notice." You know how on top of the fireplace, the chimney, where you're usually there's a big family portrait. There was a very large portrait of Donald Trump, all by yourself,
That's funny.
and he go, that is unfortunately the style of how he runs everything, right? And that created maybe that larger than life persona that gave him the ability to get away with a lot of stuff. But think about that for a second, right? So here you have somebody that's one of his biggest challenges at a personal level. So that also got into a point that by not having any real political experience, he didn't really know how to build coalitions with the, other parties and other people, because at some point
He didn't know how to make
you
friends.
can't. Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
This is the kid that goes out and plays according to his rules, and when he doesn't like the way it's going, just take his ball and say,
And goes.
I'm
I own
done."
the court. Get
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. Right,
That's
and
funny.
so that style also didn't get in that many
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
So I want to start getting it a little closer to what's taking place right now, just by letting you know that during the time of his presidency, so some very good things that obviously took place, like you're saying. It's the only president that I can recall during my lifetime, but there's 0 wars involved, right? Everybody, maybe the whole idea, like you're saying, maybe everybody was not quite clear about how he was going to react about certain things, and the possibility that he was actually a little crazy for real. I think that there was a lot of reservation for a lot of people, but I think that he was also very clear when it came to the messages that he delivered to, whether it was China or Russia or anybody else involved. We're gonna come after you personally. And it wasn't just a question of we're gonna go to war. You know what I mean? It was just we going for the head of the snake, and of course, and then every financial influence. The economy, guys, for everybody can agree that the economy was going well,
Record-breaking.
not just across the board, but especially for people like us, like where we can actually say, you know what, this was definitely a good run,
Most
a
profitable.
lot of good choices from a financial perspective, right? Forget about if I would have had a choice, like many people, you know what I mean, I was saying, man, can somebody get a handle of that Twitter account, right?
Yeah.
Because he got out of hand in a number of like, not presidential per se, right? A lot of the stuff that he put out there. However, for you to establish a contrast with everybody else and how everybody's thinking and the way everybody's operating, you have to separate yourself that much so that people can say, okay, I don't, some people can literally say, I don't like it, right?
Yeah.
Some people have said, come on, it could be done a little better. I'm one of those guys that are like, really? Seriously? You mean to tell me that you couldn't frame that a little
Right.
different?
It's
right,
not say it. It's can you say it a little bit differently?
Right?
Like,
And so, but at the same time, the one thing that you were very clear is that there was a clear separation, and maybe that's the way when we see it as being divisive, right? But did you need it to really, was that part of the strategy, right? To really,
I get
to
you.
draw the line in the
Yeah.
sand and said, this is where we stand, some of us, this is the way we see it, and this is what we're gonna support. I will tell you that it was undeniable whenever he's accused of being too over nationalist. It was undeniable his clear position about the
Wait.
love for the country, the
Seriously?
love for he's
Two, like people.
too nationalist. There's because
So
there's-
what's wrong with that, though?
well, you can get to the point where you can become a little bit of an island, meaning you want to remove yourself from the international community. That's not necessarily good. That's very difficult to do these days. I mean, you can do certain things, but it's also even Adam Smith, argument on wealth of nations. You know what I mean? It's just talks about precisely the need for. For commerce to take place, right? And again, from a business perspective, especially being a business guy, right? But politically, when it came to the amount of money that the United States is still pouring into so many different countries, and the many wars, the many political games that they have to be dealt with, poorly played by just about every other politician, obviously. He wanted to draw a line on the sand, but business-wise, right? Doing commerce is one component. The second thing is there's a little bit of a danger when you become too nationalist, because that's how they started to draw comparisons between a American Donald Trump and a Nazi Germany under Hitler, right? Because it was nationalism. There's that national pride. So a lot of people took something that should have been a positive, you know what I mean, which is love
By the
for the
way-
country, love for the flag, love for our national anthem, no love for. I mean, this guy made it very, very, very clear. But it was very easy for people, and I will say people of very bad faith. I'm sure there was a couple of people that had legitimate concern about maybe is this something that can take us to a place where there really is no room to love anybody else. You know what I mean?
And I can understand that, by the way, and I can understand that concern because I get it. But on the other side is where the country was when this guy was elected. I think even some of that overly nationalistic really put a very big magnifying glass on what was happening to the country, which is people are under like not even outside. I'm talking about Americans don't know how great America is. You know what I mean? It's like the land of opportunity. Why do people move here? So it's like, and a lot of people don't actually realize that because this is all they've known and they're being fed a crazy narrative in a school where it's
Correct.
saying America sucks. So I agree with what you're saying, and I can see how it can turn really bad. But I think the way that he was going, it was actually necessary to counteract whatever is happening right now, and it's definitely being encouraged right now. But I think there's a couple people that are more aware, and it's a good thing. So.
Think about the many things that did not change, or the whole political game is still just as bad or even worse. Like I will tell you, as much as I love to serve people, that is just one simple reason why I will never run for office. You know what I mean? It's just when you think about the amount of pain and suffering the family has to go through. You know what I mean?
He's sending people to Honduras.
Yeah, it's like listen, okay, who do we know in Honduras? But the other thing is the education system.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, but here's what he was able to do. He ended up highlighting very significant problems that we have with our educational system. And in addition to that, though, even though this is a guy who had to deal and interact with unions, especially for the many projects that he had in New York, right? Also highlighted how much of an issue becomes when a union becomes a political arm. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that, yes, he was able to highlight, and maybe he was very confident on a second term that was going to do whatever for the economy. Internationally, make no mistake about it, Republicans have a very active position when it comes to foreign policy. And I think that his position was not necessarily 100% the traditional position of Republicans, you know what I mean? His position was more of a minimum intervention, withdrawing from areas that are costing us a lot of money, where it makes no sense for us to even have a presence today, just reducing the amount of, even what happened in Afghanistan, that was something that was already part of a project that started with the Trump administration. It's just that the way the Biden administration managed that was a disaster, right? You don't. Anyway, so all right, so let's move it forward to where we are today, right? Here's where we are today. For the first time ever, this country is witnessing the indictment of a not only a former president but a candidate for presidency again. Right? This is a first, and I think we're going to have a sequence of firsts coming out of this situation. Right? This is something that, for me, is really not a good day for the country, and even for the people that don't like this man. And for people that don't want to see him, I understand you don't want him to be a president again. And I understand you were really angry about some of the positions that he had. That's why we are free to develop our own different positions. You know what I mean? We don't agree on everything, and we don't disagree on every component. But the fact of the matter is that we have to be able to be objective enough to, let me criticize some of the bad things, but also let me recognize some of the good things that were done. But this is not something good for the country. Yeah. This is not something good for the election process, right? This is something that's obviously not good for the person as an individual and his family. I will tell you, if there was ever a moment where I wanted to see somebody like Ivanka Trump, and I believe she already came out to make a statement. But if there was ever a time, Ivanka, for you to come out and support your father because there's so much goodwill and good faith that was placed on you, and for multiple reasons, a very close bond, very close relationship between daughter and father, right? And in addition to that, during the first 4 years, she really played a meaningful role. So this is a moment where that hopefully, I see the boys being interviewed on different platforms, and obviously they supporting their father. I would love to see his daughter being a little more active in this process. So what happens here? Obviously, he managed to make a lot of enemies. Can we all agree on that? I mean, that's a very few people that I know that managed to make that many enemies going into the process of becoming a president, during the time that he was a president, right? Dealing with so many different ways where they were trying to got impeached multiple times, got into a point where, things that happened to this man had never happened to anybody, whether a sitting president or post-presidency, right? And obviously came out of there with a big target on his back. And I think that a lot of people, I will tell you, I don't think this would have been happening if this man would have said, you know what? 4 years was good. It was my time. I did what I could. You know what I mean? I couldn't fix the whole thing, but I tried. And I'm gonna tell you, looking back, I think the history is gonna be a lot kinder in this man in those 4 years than most people would like to even accept as a reality, right? Again, for some of the things that all of us highlighted, and there's so much more to address. But now that he decided I'm running again, a couple of things happen. So you have a DA that what do we know about this situation? Well, you have a DA that absolutely whose whole platform to get elected was based on, I'm gonna make sure that Donald Trump gets arrested. And it is also alleged that he ended up getting about $1 million from George Soros, right? And for everybody, I saw that Ron DeSantis made a comment about, the George Soros, right? And one of the comments was to call that statement, meaning highlighting the fact that he actually got $1 million from Soros, to actually call that an anti-Semitic position, which is the most stupid thing because a fact is a fact. If the man put the money, and you can call that guy really not a good character, not a good player, based on the many things that we know that he is supporting that are truly not good for the country. And I don't even understand. I think that some people thrive on chaos, Like, they absolutely want to see things falling apart because that makes sense for them financially, and that also gives them the ability to control the narrative about certain things. That's what we know about this guy. So, like I said before, there's over 33 counts. He's going to have to go somewhere where he's got to get booked. He's got to get processed. There's got to be a picture. And by the way, you don't have many people I know for a fact that are literally saying, I cannot wait for that image to come out. I want to get it printed, and I'm going to wear that T-shirt. I think that
I'm going to have a 50-foot tall painting.
I don't know, what does it mean for you? That whole situation, how it's playing out. How do you see it playing out, though?
I don't know if it'll stop him altogether from moving forward as far as what he wants to do and run again. I think it's just showing that there's definitely a big push to stop him. I didn't think it was gonna be go this far, but at the end of the day, I'm really not too I'm not too concerned for Trump. Like, I think he's gonna be fine no matter what. He's gonna be okay, But what I am concerned for is just what direction we're moving forward, as far as a country as a whole. Because to me, I always say you got to respect the presidency, regardless of whether I like the person or not. Like, there's something about the position that you got to respect, because if you don't care about the position, then we lose so many other things from that. You get what I'm saying? It's like your parents. Your parents may not be perfect, but if you don't recognize your parents are your parents and don't give them a certain level of respect for being your parents, then your whole household is gonna fall apart on some level, because now it's like, what do you building everything else upon? You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
So then I'm more concerned about what people are thinking about this versus what's actually happening. So then I think the whole situation is gonna it's gonna do what it does, but like, for the person who's excited who gets the shirt, that's what I'm concerned about. It's like, all right, how many people are looking at this like, all right, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's what I'm more paying attention to. But like I said, we'll see. It's still early, to see how far this is gonna go. But it could be very bad in ways that we don't even understand. As far as which direction we as a whole are moving towards.
Fair enough.
Yep.
My understanding is that he can still, wherever he's at, he can still continue to be a candidate and even continue to, if he does get elected, become a president. I think there's two things that I look at. This is a very, it's poking at he has a very big base that is very vocal and is very, so I think it's also, I'm concerned about something else labeled as an insurrection, may happen. Just because if you're poking at that person. Mm-hmm. So what I ask for everybody, that actually stands by him, mm-hmm. the best thing that you can do is, please protest, because we have a right to express our opinion. It's just make sure, especially because it's going to get blown out of proportion, if you do go that route, that is peaceful, like for real peaceful, mm-hmm. And don't do anything stupid, because that is exactly what the other side is looking for. Is they're saying, mm-hmm. you see why we can't have nice things, mm-hmm. Type of thing. So it's like, so that's one. I still don't understand what this Brax guy was. It's so hypocritical what he's doing, especially on a guy. I actually went digging through the campaign, because one thing is what the news channel says, and I said, let me go and look at what were some of the things people that were endorsing him. What were they saying? And he was saying, look, we're gonna actually prosecute things that are a matter of like, public safety and stuff like that. And so it's like, if you're saying that, meaning kind of like, if you did something stupid, we're not gonna, if it's a felony, we'll put it down as a misdemeanor type of thing. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, he's going full force, he's not tough on crime. That's not what he ran on. But he is running tough on Trump.
If you look at what's going on in New York right now,
it's a mess.
Nobody's being tough. If you look at what's going on in California, nobody's being tough.
It's a mess,
crime, right? So
yeah. So this guy is like going against his own position, pursuing something that is so old. One. And two, on things that is like, okay, like multiple other entities have said, there's nothing here, let's just let it move on. Money's being paid off everywhere. Anyway, we'll talk about the Biden family at some point, but so that's my position. I'm concerned about his base, like his strong base, the whole MAGA community, doing something silly, or doing something and it being blown out of proportion. Mm-hmm. Honestly.
Yeah. Sometimes people will do that intentionally, right? That's true. When you're gonna have an argument and you're about to lose, and that this is an argument that you're gonna lose. The only thing that you can do is find a way to get the other person angry. Mm-hmm. So now you have a reason to actually misbehave in a different direction.
Yeah.
A lot of that is taking place. I was also watching, immediately I went to different channels, see what everybody was saying, and I was watching, they were interviewing him, Michael Cohen, who was the attorney who actually handled the transfer of the $130,000. And this guy is just like, you listen to this guy for a little bit and you need to take a shower, you know what I mean? And the good news is that this is supposed to be the star witness, you know what I mean, of the, and I said the good news is because he has so very little credibility, right? But again, by not knowing what the exact charges happens to be, you don't know exactly what's going to come out of it. But if it's based on what we know, if it's based on something where potentially a statute of limitations already ran out, something where the feds already look into it and they decided not to go after, right? Because they didn't see that there was any merit and they didn't think that there was any prosecutor that was going to actually try to make this happen or that will even take the case. And when you're looking at something that truly looks like political gamemanship or vengeance, right? Or trying to stop, or worse than that, interference, which is what the current Speaker of the House is saying, if this is interference, we're going to come after you, right? And so And so now everybody's going to start threatening everybody, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's going to
That's
claim
not a good-
rule of
that's not
law.
healthy for the country.
Everybody's going to claim rule of law. The problem with the rule of law is also that, by not having clean hands, there's something that everybody has. It's like the IRS walking into your house or the FBI walking into your house. They're going to find something. Maybe not what they came to look for, but they're going to find something.
Okay.
And that's where we are in that very delicate situation where we can also just hurt. You're talking about also the support from the MAGA community. You know what I mean? This is going to be expressed in a couple of ways. In a previous conversation, we were talking about people vote with their feet, right? Meaning they will move from one country to another country because they see more possibility. People also vote with their money.
Yes.
And I cannot wait to see not only what started like yesterday, they were talking about millions of dollars being poured into the DonaldJTrump.com website to support, you know what I mean? And for anybody that wants to go support that, just full disclosure, I couldn't help but to say, you know what? I think I'm sending a couple of dollars. And I'm doing that because just like you, more than just supporting a man, a family person, a business guy, a former president who's actually looking to become a president again, who kept us out of war, who kept the economy going for the right, but to be treated the way he's being treated right now. So what I'm inviting a lot of people that actually want to support his process is vote with your money. Vote with your money, because a lot of money is going to be needed to defend cases like this or situations like this. And I'm going to tell you, I think the people are going to be extremely surprised about the amount of money that's going to be collected. One of the things that I said to the two of you in the last conversation is, this is definitely a life-defining moment for his election process. This is where people either said, you know what, you really damaged good, or, I don't like what's actually happening here. We're going to support even more. Even the people that didn't know,
On the fence.
if they were a little bit on the fence, I think that some people are looking at this situation and saying, this is really out of line. This should have never happened. A lot of those independents, so-called independents, that are thinking, I don't know if I should. I think that this man is going to go down in history as the person who was actually responsible for getting Donald Trump elected again. By making his move.
That's what Elon Musk said
Talking
on a
about
tweet,
karma,
yeah.
did he?
Yeah, he says if he gets if he goes to jail, he'll be elected.
Yeah, I mean, just with what's
That's
taking
funny.
place right now. Just think about it. You think you're gonna hurt the guy, and what you
Yeah.
did is you actually made it. You have people that didn't even like it to actually become a little more sympathetic.
Yeah, it's gosh.
And in some cases, even people that were not, like you're saying, there was a window of time where you went from zero paying attention to politics to you started to look into it a little more, to started to look into what the other people were saying. Maybe they were not that crazy. Maybe it wasn't so bad. To now you're saying, I can understand why people make the transition to being a Democrat to a Republican. I think that if you look into history, economy, rule of law is very difficult to be a Democrat these days. Very, very difficult to be a Democrat these days. I don't know. And what they're doing right now with this man. So guys, I think we're going to stick to this topic only just because of the amount of time that we already pour into.
Yeah.
I want to start getting some of your final thoughts about.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm not like a fan of Trump, to be honest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm a bigger not fan of you do something wrong to people that are in a position that I don't agree with. You get what I'm saying? So
Correct.
like I said, so even though Trump is not my favorite person, I don't care who the president is.
Correct.
I think they deserve a certain level of respect, and then there's certain things that just shouldn't be done or shouldn't be allowed. Do you get what I'm saying? So then I'm against the whole we're gonna look up for something to try to get him, in trouble. It makes no sense to me, and it's not a good look. So I think we should be smart enough to understand, regardless of how you think about a person, that doesn't change their position and what that means for the country. So I'm thinking more so what's going to happen with the country. At the end of the day, I believe you're right. I think this push could actually be one of the reasons why he's more likely to get, reelected.
Makes him
100%.
more likable.
Yeah, 100%. Even if you're not more likable, it's just making people pay more attention.
He is a victim, and the country likes victim.
I'll never forget. I remember I was watching. If I don't know if you guys ever seen Private Parts, Howard Stern. It's a movie about Howard Stern. But anyway, they was talking about how like when he was
Classic
first
documentary.
Yeah. And
Documentary.
great movie. But anyway, he was very controversial, because Howard Stern was one of the first people who would say things people weren't used to hearing on the radio. And what they were saying in the movie is people who liked him on average would listen to him for an hour, and people who didn't like him on average would listen to him for 2 hours. so when they don't like him, they listen more. So I think it's going to be like one of those same things where the people who don't like Trump is going to end up making him more popular, But like I said, at the end of the day, I'm not concerned with Trump and his family. I think they're going to be fine no matter what. I'm more so just paying attention to what's going to happen to us as a country, where we just got to be careful with that, And more than anything, guys, know what's going on, because I know there's a million people right now who have no clue what's even going on or what's happening, or so it's very important to know what's going on. Even if you don't know everything about the situation, you should know that there's a situation that you got to pay attention to, because it can affect you in multiple ways, for your life, So that's what I'm thinking.
Right. So for me, if I were to put a closing message together, it will start like this: is if you're part of the MAGA community, just make sure that you don't do anything stupid or anything that can potentially be blown out of proportion, because history says that it will be. They're looking for things to stick, and this could very well be one of those things. And violence doesn't really solve anything. So, if you really are the part of the party that is law and order, do so, So that's one. If you're somewhere in the middle, my recommendation is to actually go look at both sides. Like I spent the research for this. I actually went and I looked into the MSNBCs, the CNN, even the Pac-Man guy. And then I went into also looking at the other sides, and I said, okay, what do I believe about this? And that's how I started my own transition into a little more right, a little bit more right, a little bit more right, and now somebody will call me a full-on conservative, even though I don't agree with some of the things that even Trump did or what he stands for. Definitely, like the divisions, I really don't like that. But there's that. If you're completely on the left, my invitation is to pay attention why this guy is being targeted the way that he is. That is a telltale, or something that he's doing is messing up with whatever it is that they're willing to go 8 years back to go pursue something that maybe. So there's a reason why that's happening. My invitation is, I was close-minded at some point. I was very close-minded. You couldn't even catch me. We would travel together. And we would actually be, and you'd be watching Fox News, and I'd go to the gym. I was probably fitter because you were doing some of those stuff.
Responsible for sending you
to be honest with you, I actually gained a couple pounds after. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like I was very close-minded, and until I said, wait a minute, what's going on? And so I started questioning. I'm not saying that you need to agree or disagree. All I'm saying is, please start questioning. There's a reason why this is happening. And if you look into it and you're like, nope, I'm still 100% behind the dude that's digging 8-year-old shit, by all means, stay there. But do not do your due diligence, right? Do not just tell it, take whatever it is that they're feeding you in the media, which is so heavily manipulated, it's not even funny. So that's just my recommendation for every single person, so.
Couple of things, I will tell you, I remember sharing with you guys that moment that took place with President Clinton and the Monica Lewinsky situation. And to be quite honest with you, I look back to those days, and I look back to that moment specifically, and I remember saying, I don't think this will ever get this bad ever again. Well, this is how we managed to get it worse than that whole situation, how it was managed. And I know for experience that what's actually taking place is that the likability of Donald Trump right now is increasing in areas that people don't understand, because that's exactly what was happening with Bill Clinton. I remember like you're saying, literally feeling bad for the guy, saying this is not the way you should be treating, especially at that. In his case, was a sitting president. You know what I mean, this is not. It was painful to watch. It felt disrespectful. It felt something that was not supposed to be happening. And I tell you, there's a lot of people right now that are witnessing this moment, and it feels that it's not something that should be happening. Now, in addition to what's going on with Donald Trump, we are witnessing a lot of things happening in the country right now that it feels like they're not supposed to be happening. You know what I mean? And this is going to make the argument about abuse of power, misinformation, and just crazy stuff that's taking place in the country right now, make the argument a lot larger. I'm inviting everybody, again, vote with your money. You know what I mean? If you feel that something is taking place, I second your perspective and opinion about keep it cool. You know what I mean? And it just know that the moment that you protesting
protest with your
something,
money,
there's gonna be some people that are gonna show up there whose whole game plan is anarchy, right? And to make things that maybe if you were never planning about burning anything like that, there's a group of people whose whole game plan is don't worry about it. We're gonna show up, we'll do the burning, so you look like crazy, right? And that's also strategy. So be very careful
100%.
about the choices. There are people that will come from out of town the moment that they know that. But support the process. For everybody else, I think that the invitation is just have a sense of awareness, right? Just look, just follow what's taking place. I think it's also a valid recommendation to say, just pay attention to who's saying what and what is it going to do, what's going to be the impact at the end, right? So we got to be a little more critical in our process of understanding. It's not just, oh, the guy who I don't like is getting a beating right now.
So I like it.
That can eventually become the beating that the guy you like is going to have to take, especially when we open that door. And that was even one of my issues during the days of Bill Clinton, right? It's like, whatever they're doing this to this man, it's just a matter of time before it happens to the other side. I will tell you, though, as part of the final set of things that I would like to say here, this cannot be considered a good moment for the country by anyone. Even if you hate Donald Trump, even if you're just saying this is like for the purpose of being respectful of our government system and especially the office of the presidency, this cannot, you will be extremely misguided and naive if you actually think that something good is taking place right now. That's not the case. So I'm praying for the country more than anything else. I'm praying for us to find a different way to handle these moments, these issues. We do need a little bit of a statesman, or we definitely going to need somebody that's going to take full revenge. I don't know which one is going to be better or which one is going to be worse at this very moment, but I have some significant concerns about the next developments. Let's keep an eye on that. Guys, if any of this information was helpful to you, move it around, hopefully, because we want it to be something where you can process the conversation. Hopefully,
making you think.
You may not be willing to accept the message for somebody that is a blonde, white, blue-eyed looking guy but hopefully you will accept it for somebody who's part of the gay community, right?
An immigrant and a black guy.
A black guy, and from a guy who I know you struggle just to understand his accent. Hopefully, at least you will be willing to listen to the conversation, to try to understand in what areas we are right, in what areas we are wrong, and what is your position, so you can hopefully start finding one that embraces every component. So move it around, move the video around, so continue to subscribe, like it, you know what I mean, and
share.
comment. Where do you think this whole mess is going to end up? Guys, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you for being part of it.
Thank you for having
Looking
us.
forward
Yes, appreciate
to
it.
the next one. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.
Take it easy.